All right, welcome back to another episode of the Aggregate. We're here with Jody Chocolate Thunder, as always. How you doing?
Thank you. Happy to be back.
Fantastic, and we have a special guest on the show today. We've got Terry Mitchell. Terry, how are you, sir?
I'm well.
Oh, the I Am Sheldon. That's a deep cut from Saturday Night Live. All right, good. Well, we've got a little bit of diversity here. Terry, as Jody pointed out in the pre-show, is a seasoned veteran. Is going to bring us a view that we don't normally have on the aggregate. So we look forward to that. Today we are right in Jody's Steelhouse. We're in his backyard of the Steelers. We all know that Jody's a big Steelers fan, big Steelers honk, has been for a long time. Steelers now 10-6, lost a few in a row here with Russell Wilson. Of course, he replaced Justin Fields. They picked them both up in the offseason. Picked up Justin Fields, the nice little running quarterback, and Russell Wilson, the wily pocket quarterback, who's a little bit more of a scrambler than a runner. And after 4-2 with Fields, they decided to make the switch when Russell Wilson got healthy. And they're 6-4 with Russell Wilson. So they're teetering on the edge, trying to get in, make sure they're in the playoffs, trying to see if they can win a division. They need a little bit of help this weekend. They do need Baltimore to lose. So we're going to start off with Jody since, like I said, this is your account with the Steelers here. Who do you think they're better with, Russell Wilson or Justin Fields?
Well, as you said earlier, Justin Fields was 4-2. You know, good record. But if you go back to that 4-2, that 6-week era, Pittsburgh had no identity. We didn't know what we were. We wouldn't really push the ball downfield, which is why, you know, our kicker has just been killing it with points because we were driving the field and getting field goals. And then when Russ came in, we were getting more touchdowns. We kind of had an identity. And then for some reason, the last few weeks, we just kind of took a nosedive. So.
Well, and do you think that's a symptom of him not being there, or is that a symptom of injuries or coaching, or what do you think?
Well, it's more than one thing. I'd say one, it just seems like, you know, Russ is about, 5'10", something like that. Mm-hmm. And his lineman's like 6'4", so already he can't see. He has to roll out to see his receivers. But it's either A, the offensive line is not protecting him better like they should, or B, Russ is holding on the ball too long. So, I mean, that can be either or. But sometimes, you know, I wonder, like, when you got Arthur Smith, who was an offensive coordinator, he was last year's Atlanta Falcons coach, you know, running the offense. I'm like, when you got a talent like George Pickens, how do you not get him the ball? Like, what are we doing here? You know, it's frustrating. My son Kendall feels the same way. When you have Jaylen Warren, change your pace back, right? And, you know, he gets in the game, we just move the ball. When he's not in the game, it's just like, what are we doing, you know? Najee Harris gets in there, and it's like, you're a big back. You're from Alabama, so you know how to run because Derrick Henry does it, right? So I'm not sure what goes on. It seemed like the whole offense changes when Jaylen Warren's in there as opposed to, you know, others. It's a weird dynamic now.
Okay. Terry, opinions. Who do you think? The runner Justin Fields or the wily veteran like yourself, Russell Wilson?
I would go with Russell Wilson. I'm not a big Russell Wilson fan, but you got to be able to throw down the field, and I don't know if Justin Fields can do that. Great legs, but if you dare him to throw, I don't know. The last game that they played, I was a little disappointed they didn't give it to Franco Harris more. But oh, wrong era. Sorry.
It's the last Steelers game that Terry watched.
But you also, I don't know who Fields' 4-2 record was against versus what's Russell 6-4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, if you're playing a bunch of Carolina and New York teams, I don't know if either one was, or you're playing against the Kansas Cities like they did last game. There's a big difference. I mean, your record might be decent, but if you're playing a bunch of crap teams, you can stockpile wins real easy.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things is you mentioned a couple things, being able to go downfield. Russell Wilson's he's a get down the field guy. He likes to throw those moon balls, those just really big moon shots down the field. And Justin Fields is more of a runner. I mean, he can throw it a little bit, but I think he's been in the league long enough that we've seen what he can and can't do. He's not like a Jaden Daniels from
The Commanders.
the Commanders. Yeah, I was going to say the Redskins, but you can't. They're not the Redskins anymore. They're the Commanders.
Who we beat, by the way. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
There you go. And,
Who was
and that kid,
What's that?
Who was that quarterback?
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson was?
Yeah.
So that's a big win for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, because that's not a bad team. I mean, that's a double-digit win team. I think they beat the Eagles last week.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So they're no joke. But I think Jaden Fields what's his name for the Redskins?
Jaden.
No, Jaden Daniels for the Commanders.
Yeah.
He's just getting to be what he is. Like, we don't know how good he can be. And he's a pretty good passer already. I mean, he threw 5 touchdowns the other day. I think Justin Fields kind of is what he is, and we kind of see the tiger stripes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they will need to throw it a little bit more and maybe run it a little bit. Do they need a backfield change, Jody, with a running back?
I say Jalen Warren should be your starting running back because when he's in the game, our offense is just dynamic, you know. And I'm sorry, but it seems like Najee gets the ball and he gets hit before he gets his second foot on the ground. And when you're a big back, hit the hole. He's too busy trying to dance and trying to cut back, run that same play, and Jalen Warren gets the ball, hits the hole hard. Now he's getting tackled 7-8 yards down the field, which is what we need, I'm not saying go Jerome Bettis where it's run here in 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I'm not saying that. But when you run the ball good, then that 8th guy comes in the box. Now you got one-on-one coverage with the wide receivers. And that's how we do it. But for some reason, it's just not happened the last few weeks.
And they may be a wide receiver away too. They maybe need a little bit more talent.
Right.
So Terry votes Russ. Jody, give me a definitive vote. Russ or Fields?
Wilson.
Okay. All right. And, I remember back when the aggregate was called Game of Zones, and you and Kendall were both, give Justin Fields. So you've changed your heart a little bit, huh?
Well, because at that point, Russ never really did a whole lot because he was rusty when he got in. But once he got his legs underneath him, we started moving the ball downfield. It just seems like when Justin was in the game, it was like, I'm going to play, not to lose rather than, hey, I'm playing to win. I mean, yeah, put Justin Fields in. Yeah, we can beat the Atlanta Falcons like an opening weekend, things like that, or the Raiders or what have you. But, when you get to play the conference schedule or division schedule, and if you look at the schedule, we never played a division team until November. So the first 2 months of the league, it's been like the Colts, it's been like the Giants, the Commanders, that kind of stuff. Now, once we hit the back half, you have Baltimore twice, right? We split. Heck, we had Cleveland. We split. You still had a game against Kansas City. We lost. We still had a game against the Eagles. We lost. So it's like, okay, we got one game left. And now we're trying to hope that Baltimore loses against Cleveland, who they lost to this year, by the way. And we beat Cincinnati at home and, let the pieces fall where they may. I mean, we're in the playoffs. It's just now we're trying to figure out, okay, do we get that division title so we can get that home game, or do we got to go on the road and play somebody like Buffalo or something like that?
Yeah, and as the season gets on, and this is where I want to kind of tap into what some of Terry's expertise and experience here, because he's been watching football for a long time. My contention is that a run-first quarterback can't win a Super Bowl. And when I say can't, I know that one will eventually win a Super Bowl, but a run-first quarterback has not won a Super Bowl yet. They've had scramblers that have won, but a run-first Lamar Jackson type guy, and he's kind of the standard right now, right? Lamar Jackson is the standard of a running quarterback. He can throw pretty well, but he still runs better than he throws.
He's like Mike Vick.
Exactly. I mean, that's just one of the guys. So, Terry, you've been watching football since how long? When you started watching football? Early 70s, maybe?
Yeah, early 70s.
So you've seen all the good ones, all the great ones. You know, do you think a running quarterback's ever going to win a Super Bowl, or is it just not the way the game's played?
I don't think it's played that way. I think Lamar Jackson could win a Super Bowl. I think they have a good shot at it this year. They're starting to play pretty good ball now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's in the AFC. You got to get by the Chiefs, but the Chiefs look pretty beatable, even though they only lost once. But they've had 3 or 4 games that they could have easily lost. You know, Raiders, bad snap, block, chip shot here or there, a toe touch from the Ravens from out of bounds in the final play of the game, the first game of the year. So they could have 3 or 4 losses, but they're going to be tough to beat at home. But I think the Ravens could beat them. I don't know if Josh Allen would be considered first run before he runs a lot. I wouldn't say he's first. That's his first option, but he could definitely. He runs a lot. He could win.
So my definition of a run first quarterback is if you've got a pie, you're slicing down the middle. Which side's bigger? You know. Yeah. And I think with Lamar, it's just a touch more on the run side. Josh Allen, when he was born, the gods turned his right arm into a cannon.
Yeah.
And that guy can throw himself out of a lot of situations. I consider him a scrambler. I consider Pat Mahomes a scrambler. I consider those guys that can run Russell Wilson. They can get out of a situation. I consider run first to be Fields, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson from Indianapolis, the new kid. There's a couple more, Jalen Hurts, I think. And there's been guys like that. Jalen Hurts has been in the Super Bowl. Kaepernick's been in the Super Bowl. Cam Newton's been in the Super Bowl. Like, these are guys that can do it. But, you know, Jody, what do you think? What is it that these running quarterbacks just can't get over the hump?
I think it's because when the push comes to shove and you play in some of those good defensive coordinators like Spagnuolo, the Chiefs, when they force you to make that throw, they're going to test you to see how good of a quarterback you are. So we talked about Lamar Jackson, right? Regular season, awesome. But for some reason, when the game's on the line, he makes that interception. He makes that interception. Or he doesn't rise to the occasion, because just look at last year's AFC title game against the Chiefs at home, and they couldn't get it done. Mistake here, fumble there, interception there. You know, it's like, for some reason, a defensive coordinator, a good one, will make a quarterback prove himself. Like Josh Allen, they can beat the Chiefs every year in the regular season. When it comes to the playoff, it's a whole different ball game, and they just don't rise to the occasion. So as far as the running quarterbacks, like you said before, and we talked about this before, Jeremy, when it's a scrambling quarterback, like your Steve Youngs or your Roger Staubachs, yeah, they scramble. They know they can throw, but I'm going to take off a run too. That's what makes you dangerous. When you just run first only, it's like, okay, fine. You know, he ain't going to throw it, Justin Fields. And that's why I thought we had no identity at first, because, yeah, he ran for first downs, which is good, but it's like our receivers were getting frustrated. They weren't getting the ball because he wouldn't throw it. It was more like, I'll be pedestrian. You know, I'll protect the ball when I can. Like, dude, throw the ball down the field. You got weapons, use them.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I'm going to bring something up here, and you guys can kind of chime in. When I think of the running QBs and some of the running QBs of all time, and so we see Cordell Stewart up there. We see Michael Vick. You know, you can bring in these guys that are running QBs. I guess Tarkenton would maybe be.
I think he was more of a scrambler.
Okay, see, and again, a little bit before my time, and Jody and I started watching NFL in, you know, probably early to mid 80s.
Yeah.
And when we were kind of aware of the NFL, and that was, you started getting to the Randall Cunningham era. You know, some people say John Elway, he's a scrambler to me. He wasn't a runner. That guy, John Elway was probably the closest thing to Josh Allen there is right now. Where he could do some good things with his legs, but he had a cannon. So these guys just don't, like I said, they don't get over the hump for some reason. And I don't know why, because you have guys like Trent Dilfer that can manage a game and Brad Johnson that can manage a game with a good defense, but they just don't move the offense. And I think Jody makes a good point of these defensive coordinators are so good that if they have 2 weeks, they're going to shut that runner down. And now, like Terry, you said with Russell Wilson, now you got to pass the ball a little bit. They're going to force you to pass the ball, and can you do it? And these guys just haven't done it. There's another guy, Donovan McNabb. Okay, there's a guy who was kind of a 50-50 runner-thrower type too, right? But he never got over the hump. He was probably right at the 50-50 mark if there was anybody. Which kind of, let's go off script a little bit there. Who's your guys' top 3? We'll start with Jody. Jody, give me your top 3 running quarterbacks all time. Like if you had to pay a ticket to go see a running quarterback, who's your top 3?
In order, or just
not in order, just kind of 3 off the top of your head?
Well, there's the guy right there, McNabb. I would say Steve Young, because
good one.
He can do. Yeah, it was nice. And when you grow up, I grew up watching Randall Cunningham, so I have to put him up there too. So
yeah, Randall Cunningham was dynamic. He was fun to watch. Steve Young was a great pick. And again, that's a guy who's a scrambler, but I believe who is also the highest rated quarterback of all time passing too. And so he could do it all. Terry, what do you think? 3 runners that you'd pay to see?
Well, there was really no running quarterbacks when I was growing up in the 70s. Really. Or 60s, late 60s through the 70s. So Randall Cunningham was probably the very first one that I saw that actually ran a lot. So, and not necessarily in winning, but exciting to watch quarterbacks would probably be Vic, Cunningham, and I like Lamar Jackson because I think Lamar can still throw pretty well too, so it keeps the defense on their heels. And 4th, just off the top 3, the 4th pick would probably be Brady. Would probably be the 4th running quarterback.
Yes,
he runs sidelines and come back all the time. Exciting to watch.
Yes, just outside the top 3.
And I don't think I'm watching Elway. Elway could run, but I don't. That might be even his 3rd option to be run, but he was effective. I mean, he could throw downfield. He could throw the little screen pass or slants, and if nothing's there, he could take off and be effective. But I don't think that was his first choice.
Right.
And that's what I would call a scrambler. I remember watching Lamar Jackson at Louisville and going, boy, he might be the best throwing running quarterback I've seen in a long time, if ever. Cunningham developed it when he was with the Vikings late in his career. But of course, you always have good numbers when Randy Moss and Chris Carter are on your team. Yeah. So he developed into a throwing quarterback, but at his prime, he was just a runner. So Terry, did Staubach, was he a runner, a scrambler, or was he a pocket guy?
More of a scrambler.
Yeah.
But if he needed 4 or 5 yards, he'd take off. I mean, but he had some good, he could throw to Drew Pearson and some other players, so I think if you have good receivers, it really helps your run game, unless you're RG3. I watched him for about a year, then he was done. But these guys, they wake up pretty quickly when they come into the league and they run and they're doing well. Then they get a little tape on you, a little film, and then you get blasted a couple times. You turn into a pocket passer real quick.
RG3 is a good deep cut, and he came in with Marcus Mariota, who also was in the read option offense. And I thought Marcus Mariota was a better thrower than RG3. RG3 had big numbers at Baylor, but he also had great receivers. Mariota had a great system, a great coach, did a lot of good things at Oregon, and he had a very good rookie year too. But Mariota came in and then kind of fizzled out, which was too bad because I thought him and RG3 maybe going to kind of change the game with Kaepernick. They had some of these guys in there that we thought were going to be pretty good. But those are all great points.
But here's the thing, Jeremy, like you just said, that read option quarterback, you can get away with that in college, but when you come to the pros, they only last for so long, and then all of a sudden it's not effective anymore because you can even say the Wildcat was effective the first portion, and when people caught on to it, they didn't run it because it got stuffed. So you can only go so far with a read option quarterback in the pros.
Yeah, ask Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams learning real quick that these linemen can run just as fast as he can in college. So
yeah.
Yeah. When you've got defensive linemen who can run 4.4s, 4.5s, and are 300 pounds and will just get after you there. Yeah, the NFL's it's a different ball game, and Jody made a good point. The coaching is just so good. Like their schemes are so good. If you've got a good defensive coordinator, I'd say a third to a half of the teams have pretty good defensive coordinators, and a third to half of the teams have guys that need to be shit canned and they need to bring in other guys because there's some defensive coordinators that just can't stop a dripping faucet with a roll of duct tape. Like they just are horrible. But Jody mentioned the Spagnolas of the world and something like that. And that's what has propelled Kansas City is Kansas City's got Spagnola on defense and Andy Reid on offense. And that's really, really tough to stop. I mean, they've got Patrick Mahomes and they've got a couple other guys, but good Lord, those guys would probably be good with anyone. And Andy Reid's been doing it a long time, and he did it with McNabb for a long time and was successful. They didn't win one, but I'd say they were considered successful.
Yeah. Well, they went to the NFC title game 4 years in a row or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even – it might be more than that.
Yeah. So
one – was it with McNabb? One Super Bowl.
Yeah.
One.
That was the McNabb and T.O., and they lost to the Patriots by 3, I believe.
Yeah.
They went to the one, and but that's the only one. I think they went to I want to even say almost closer to 6, 7, 8 NFC title games, just a lot in a row. So, so coaching can shut down that running game, and you're right, faster defensive ends and guys like Javon Curse aren't a freak anymore. They're kind of the standard,
Yeah. But a lot of these quarterbacks, it depends on where you land. I mean, would Mahomes be Mahomes in Carolina? I mean, you're pretty blessed if you get landed on Reid's team. And there's a lot of quarterbacks that are good. I mean, Jeremy and I used to go back and forth all the time about Peyton and Brady. If they switch teams, how would they do? But, I think it depends a lot on who your coach is.
That's the same thing when we had, if Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith swap, exactly. Are we having the same numbers? Is Barry the all-time leading rusher at that point,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's the
and
that's the argument of our era is the Barry Emmett argument with running backs. There wasn't really a quarterback one until Peyton and Brady got compared when you get those duos that kind of come in together and you watch their careers grow. And I'm
sorry. I think it also depends on if you land on a team where the head coach is a defensive genius or an offensive genius. If you're quarterback, you don't want to be on a, who's the old Chicago? He used to be in Dallas too, coach, or Belichick, who's all defense, But if you get on an offensive coach like a Reid, you want to be a quarterback with a Reid, not with a Belichick.
Yeah, nowadays you're going to have an offensive coach, a QB coach, or an offensive coordinator, and you're going to have more success. If you got to have one of those guys. And then the sad part about that is if you're a good offensive coordinator, like the guy for Detroit right now, who's hotter than hot, they're going to get a coach job. Huh?
Dan Campbell?
No, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator.
Oh, okay, coordinator.
Who's just doing great things with Detroit. I mean, he's got Goff humming like he's, Y.A. Tittle. Like he's just getting after it. So, yeah, you do need the coach. You need the situation. Mahomes also sat for a year, which Aaron Rodgers sat. Steve McNair sat. I mean, some of these good quarterbacks, it's nice to sit for a year rather than to throw your quarterback out there the first season and just say, okay, go get hammered, get sacked 60 times in a season, and we'll see. And that guy might be gun shy after that first year. You never know. So not everybody can do what like a Peyton Manning did and go, God, what did he win? Like three games or something his first year, got his ass handed to him. And kind of rallied back, and that's not really what you want to do. So, yeah, getting the organization too. So if you're in a Kansas City, a Pittsburgh, some of these great organizations that know how to win and are built, and they just do things the right way in the front office with their GM. They get offensive linemen to protect young quarterbacks. They get good defenses, and they build a quarterback and they build a player is smart. If you land in a shit show like Dallas or Chicago, or you get somewhere that's just so mismanaged, then you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about young quarterbacks, and we'll just talk about the AFC. You know, 3 young studs that stick out would be Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, right? Can we agree on that?
Mm-hmm.
It would have been nice to see had he not retired where Andrew Luck would be right now.
Oh, yeah, without the injuries, he'd be one of the greats.
You know what I mean? Like to put him in there, and who knows? Because then you start putting pieces around him. Maybe he might have been the guy that be. And I guess you could put Joe Burrow in there too, right? Okay, because he's actually won. He beat Patrick Mahomes on the road in the AFC title game, so I guess you could put him in there also. I think they went back to back. Actually, they won one and lost one. So you could put those young studs in there. It would have been nice to see where Andrew Luck will land it. But it's that what if,
Yeah, he's a what if. He's an injury guy, and he was another guy who, speaking of scramblers, ran pretty well for a big dude. Mm-hmm. And he was built like Elway a lot. They compared him and Elway a lot. And maybe, I don't know, who knows? Maybe he would have got a defense and won one. But to this date, like Terry said, Lamar Jackson, he could win one this year. But the proof's in the pudding. You still got to win it, right? I mean, one of these runners has to win it before we can say it can be done.
Yeah, but there aren't a lot of runners. So what happens is you're getting 2 or 3 runner first in the whole league. So it's 2 or 3 quarterbacks against the league. You know what I'm saying? So the running quarterbacks, there aren't a lot of them. So, I mean, who's going to win it besides Lamar? And if you don't consider Josh Allen a running quarterback, there aren't a run. So it's basically Lamar against the field. And that might be it for the next 10 years. You might only have 2 running quarterbacks against 30 other teams or whatever.
Yeah, but how many touchdowns has he thrown this year, though?
What's that?
How many touchdowns has he thrown this year? He's in the high 30s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got great passing numbers. He's
it's running quarterback, but when you take a step back and go, does he have like 38 touchdowns or something like that?
I'd say that's fair. I mean, he's in that neighborhood.
Right. But I mean, if you consider him as a running quarterback, there, like I said, you might have 2 running first quarterbacks in the league, Justin Fields or whatever. What are the odds that they're going to win a Super Bowl against 30 other teams?
Well, yeah, and I'd say Jalen Hurts is the other one that has the chance. I'd say Jalen Hurts.
You think he's running first, though?
I think he's 50-50. I think he's close to McNabb because he's definitely not a great passer. I mean, he's okay. Yeah. He's an NFL quarterback. He's one of the 50 or 60 best passers in the world, right? I mean, because that's what NFL quarterbacks are. So he's not a bad passer. And I'm not saying that run first quarterbacks are bad passers or anything else. I'm just saying when you look at it and you go, boy, they designed – if there's designed runs, Jody, we had this discussion. I think if there's a designed run package for you, you're a running quarterback.
Oh, you mean like Vince Young?
Vince Young, that's another great. I mean, that's another one who, of course, he got to the NFL and he had success his freshman year, and then he kind of died out because the game caught up with him, and he wasn't as dynamic as these guys are now. Like Lamar Jackson is, with Michael Vick, probably one of the two most dynamic athletes at quarterback, probably the most too, right, in the history of the NFL. You could throw them into the top straight up runners with Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders. Like when they have the ball, they're dynamic.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just, again, it's that 50. If you're 51-49 to me, and this is just my opinion, but it's my show, so I get to decide the fucking rules. So it's you're a running quarterback. If you're just a little bit more, or if they design quarterback draws, quarterback counters, quarterback sweeps, if they roll you out a lot to move the pocket so you have the choice whether you can run or pass, that defines to me what a running quarterback is. And those guys really are just, like Terry said, a few and far between. So you're right. It is the field versus the runners, and it is hard to win. But you'd think that one of them would break through eventually. One of them will. Like, that's history. Somebody will be the first to do it. And maybe it's Lamar, but boy, if you get out of the AFC, I think you deserve to win the championship right there, because it's pretty beastly right now.
Well, who's Lamar handing the ball off to this year?
King Henry, which makes Lamar's, which so is now, why he has 30-some passing touchdowns.
So now you got that option to hand off or do a read option and take off, or throw downfield. He doesn't have to throw down 30 yards. He can throw down 15 yards.
But and he's got a couple of good receivers. Like, his receiving core is probably better this year than it's been.
Yeah. So that Henry really helps as far as, before they got Derrick Henry, they probably knew he was going to run, so you could put 8 guys in the box. Now you got to respect Henry. It's a fake handoff. He takes off, or if he backs up and throws downfield, he's got a lot more.
It's those games they can't afford to lose. Like, they've played Cleveland already and lost. Like, there's games that they probably should have won, they lost, and so you got to go, okay, what team is showing up when it counts the most? Yeah, you could play the Texans and win 31-2, but there are times where Cleveland, of all teams who are horrible, they beat us. They beat Baltimore. So it's like, which Baltimore team is showing up?
But I think if you say at the beginning of the year, if you guys are 12-5, most people would take that. I think you're going to lose 2 stupid games, right, throughout the year out of 17. I think you're going to lose a couple stupid games that you should have won, and you're going to lose a couple close ones against pretty good competition.
Right.
So 4 or 5 losses in a year isn't bad. You'd rather be 15-1 like the Chiefs or whatever, but 3 or 4 or 5 losses in a season is not too bad.
No, not at all. But like I said, when playoff time happens, that's when all the best teams get together. We're going to see, we all can say Kansas City is the favorite, but you never know, man. Buffalo might do something special. You never know. Baltimore might do something special. We may have some spoilers because, is Denver like in the running, in the hunt?
Yeah, they are.
That'd be a scary team to play in the wild card.
Like 9 games.
What's that?
I think they've won like 9 games. They're right there.
And they got the coach who's been there.
Yeah.
I mean, not the quarterback, but
that'd be a team I really, wouldn't sleep on the wild card round, because they can do some stuff, So,
well, with the NFL and a 1-game single elimination, it's not like basketball. In NBA, and usually the best team wins. In Major League, it's the team with the best 2 pitchers and a bullpen, like their pitching staff wins. In the NFL, sometimes you look up and there's teams that win a game or 2 that aren't the best team. It's college football, same thing now with the playoffs. It's not always the best team. It's the team that's best on that day.
Yeah.
So there are some teams who you don't want to play. There's Green Bay is a team nobody in the NFC will want to play,
Right.
because they can win any day. But it's also the reason that the NFL is great, man, is because and the NFL has really taken hold of this world, is because it's such a great sport and it can be one game. We love March Madness as a society. And why do we love March Madness? Because at any point, little Liberty State can beat Kentucky.
Yep.
And they're doing it more and more. And so the NFL, you look up at the playoffs, and every NFL playoff game could be won by either team. You just look up any game could be won by either team, and they're all within 3 or 4 points, which makes it exciting. It makes it fun. People bet on it a lot, which always makes it, more popular for people if they can bet on it. So this football right now is king because of the diversity and the equity of teams. And if your team's crappy, they might be good in a year or two. You might be a draft or two away. Again, look at the Lions. Where were they 3 years ago?
Well,
They're trash, but they're maybe the best in the NFL right now.
I don't think Dan Campbell's coaching when he had Matt Stafford. They made that trade for Jared Goff though either, because remember, wasn't Dan Campbell the tight end for the Lions not too long ago?
Yeah, he was.
So
he was a vicious blocking tight end. Yeah, and he brought an attitude to that team. So, yeah, the playoffs will be interesting. So let's put it this way. They're going for 3 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start with Terry. You taking Kansas City in the Super Bowl this year?
No.
No, so if I said Kansas City or the field in the AFC, you're taking the field?
I take the field. It wouldn't be shocking if they won. They have home field advantage, which will help them. But I don't think Buffalo's afraid of them. I don't think the Ravens are afraid of them. The Ravens shoulda, coulda, would have beat them on a toe tapper in the end zone. There's plenty of teams that have shots at them. They've won 10, 12 games in a row by one score. They aren't dominant. They aren't the Bears of 85. They aren't Dallas in the early 90s. They aren't, early 2000 Patriots where their defense is too good. You get some teams 2 or 3. This is their 5th, maybe AFC championship that they may play
Maybe
in.
even 6.
Probably more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sooner or later, and like you said, it only takes one injury. That's the NFL, and it only takes one game. Kelsey gets a turned ankle or whatever it is, or someone gets hot in one game, and that's all it takes. One field goal, a 55-yard field goal to lose. And I've watched a lot of Kansas City this year, and they're good, and I like Andy Reid, and Mahomes always comes up with a play and stuff, but they just look beatable. I don't know if they will be, but they look beatable. It's not like some teams in the past go, shit, no one's going to beat these guys. They can be beaten.
So, and again, and we'll go, Terry's got the Brady jersey in the background, and Terry's been a Brady fan for a long time, and, we've debated a long time, the Brady, Peyton Manning, how good really is Brady? How good is the organization and team? This and that. We've gone back and forth, and it's a great debate. Everybody on ESPN, they still have that debate, right? So, does Kansas City, and this is my opinion, does Kansas City to you remind you of some of those lower end Patriots teams? And my take on that is the seasons where the Patriots weren't at their best and they did win 12 games or 11 games and they didn't look great, but they had a solid defense and Tom Brady always found a way to win. When I watch Kansas City now, I go, boy, solid defense.
Really
Patrick
good.
Mahomes finds a way to win. They really remind me of that. Do they remind you of them at all?
Well, last year and this year, the star of Kansas City is the defense. Their offense it's good, but to me, it's 10 or 12-ish in the league.
Sure.
I don't know what their stats are. But if you're winning 10, 12, 13 games by one score, you're not dominating team. The defense is what's winning a lot of their games, which is good because you get to the playoffs, you can always count on defense. You can't always count on offense. So, the early 2000, they remind me of the Patriots. The later Patriots reminded me more of Kansas City several years ago when they can run up a score on you. And their defense was good, but their offense was a star. So this team reminds me of the early 2000 Patriots more so than the later Patriots.
And Jody mentioned Spagnuolo, their defensive coordinator, is I think the reason why. I mean, those Patriots team had, in all fairness to whoever the D coordinator title was, that was Bill Belichick's defense. We all know.
Yeah.
And so Bill Belichick is the greatest defensive coordinator of all time. And they had those great defenses. Jody, what do you think about Kansas City? So number one, I'll give you an A and a B, or a number one and a two, however you want to think of it. In the AFC, do you take Kansas City or do you take the field? And then the follow-up to that is, do they remind you of any other team that you've seen before?
First question, I would pick the Chiefs, right? Second question, yes, they remind me of those Patriot teams. And I say that because the first Super Bowl champion Chiefs team, like in modern day, was probably the most potent, most lethal team, because you had what? Who's the receiver out of Miami now? Who is he? The Cheetah? What's his name?
Oh, Tyreek Hill.
He was on that Chiefs team, that first Super Bowl, right? So they're more potent. But here we are now, and Terry hit it on the head. They're beatable, but what separates them from everybody else, they don't beat themselves. And that's what Tom Brady and the Patriots did. Tom Brady and the Patriots, they were showing holes in their game, and sometimes it caught up with them, but they don't, more oftentimes than not, they didn't beat themselves. Now, yeah, you couldn't figure out how to beat the Giants for whatever reason. When it came to New England and New York Giants in the Super Bowl, they could not figure it out, whatever reason. And then they got outgunned by the talented Philadelphia team. But over that, they never beat themselves, They never panicked. I'm sorry. If you're in a Super Bowl and you're down 28-3, there should be no way you should come back and win that game. Sorry, but the Falcons gagged on that. But again, the Chiefs now, they just know because the 80% of their team is still intact from that first Super Bowl. So they know they've been there. So now it's like, hey, guys, let's not beat ourselves. They show no panic, Okay, we lost to Buffalo, our only loss. We'll shake it off, come back and win 5 in a row now or something like that. So they're going to be fine.
Scary part about this, guys, Mahomes isn't even 30 yet.
Yeah.
So there's another decade of this that's going to happen. And I don't know if Andy Reid's going to retire. Every year is the question, are you going to retire? Are you going to retire? Are you going to retire? But he's kind of got his system in there. I don't want to say it's easy, but he's on cruise control now because he's got his coach on the field. And that kid's 29 years old. And he's been to, again, we talk about perhaps a 6th AFC title game. He's been in the AFC title game every year he's been a starter. And they have a great organization. We talk about front office. They draft the right people. They hire the right people. Kansas City's always been good. I mean, since the 90s, they've always been a competitive organization. And so we've got a lot of Kansas City in our future. I mean, the next 10 years is kind of laid down because they're going to have the quarterback. And if you have the quarterback, you have some wins, right?
Yeah. But I also thought that about Favre when he won one. They're going to go on a roll. And they lost to Denver. I definitely thought that about Rodgers when he won, and he still has one. Yeah. Although I think Reed is the main factor from the other guys who just have, one ring. I mean, because if Reed's in there, he's going to get the right players to be in his offense. But I thought the first Favre one, I said, this guy, he finally got by Dallas. He's MVP 3 years in a row. So this guy's going to rattle off 4 out of the next 6 Super Bowls. 1. And Maybe it was a dick pics. I don't know. Maybe that did him in.
That didn't help. Well, and he also had an aging Reggie White, an aging Desmond Howard, who was MVP, I believe, of that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But he was a little bit older. It's not like he was he was a great receiver or anything. He was just a good return guy. But he had an aging team, and it seems like they keep plucking in these young guys around Mahomes who you're like, wait, who is that? They lost a couple really good linebackers last season, and I thought their defense was going to suffer, and they're right back in it. So they keep plugging in these young guys to do these. And Kansas City has one of the worst offensive lines in the entire league, guys. Like, they are horrible. They had to move their left guard to left tackle last week. They're shuffling their line at week 15, 16, whatever it is. And they're just trying to protect Mahomes as best they can. And they're horrible. And they're still winning games. And what's scary, though, is Mahomes' receivers are starting to get on track with them. Like you said, Xavier Worthy is a speedster. Rice is pretty damn good. Kelsey's always open. Like, why is Kelsey always open? Why has he been open for 15 years? And nobody covers the guy.
I don't get why they just don't double team him.
Because you can't now, because now he's got Juju Smith-Schuster, who's a veteran. Xavier Worthy, the speedster, I think is the big difference. He's the new Tyreek Hill who can take the top off.
Right.
And then again, they've got Rice. They've got these guys, and they pick these B-level receivers and plug them in, and that's the sign of a good organization.
Yeah.
And they're putting these guys around Mahomes. He's just like, give me good enough guys, and I'll get you 20-some points, and the defense is going to hold them to 17, and we win.
Yeah. And that's it. Kansas City's been, did they just beat the Steelers 29-10?
Yeah.
It surprised me the Steelers gave up that many points.
Right.
But it also surprised me that Kansas City scored that many points. I've seen so many games it's been 22-19, 20-17. And I'm going, that defense isn't giving up more than 20 points, 18 points every game. So you're right. The Chiefs only need to score 21, 24 points. They may score more, but 24, they should be in the clear.
Well, yes and no. Because if you just go by the Pittsburgh game, we kind of shut ourselves in the foot with turnovers,
Mm-hmm.
So, or we scored a touchdown, but they got called back for holding. So it's kind of like, and those are killers. And so now when we shoot ourselves in the foot, then here come the Chiefs. Okay, make sure, we got away with one because they got a holding call. Now make sure they don't score a field goal, or make sure, we get them. So 5 sacks by the Chiefs defense, hey, on offense, I'm not saying we could stop them, but how many times was Kelsey open down the middle because no one's chip blocking them? And then the secondary, half of them is playing zone. The other half is playing man. That's why people are always wide open. So a lot of that had to do with Pittsburgh just not being in the right spot. And you would think, when Pittsburgh's on offense, the defense is on the sideline with the technology, looking at all kind of stuff, going, hey, we should do that. They never made it. And this is what kills me most about Pittsburgh. Sometimes they can be predictable. They don't change things up. And that's what kills us.
Yeah, you, Terry, you said Pittsburgh, Kansas City. You just fucking triggered Jody because he's been having a migraine for a few days now since Christmas after that game. And
Well,
he's just like, as soon as you mentioned Mahomes and he's rubbing his head, and he's like, oh God.
No, the score. It's not surprised. I wanted Pittsburgh to win. It's not surprising Kansas City won. It was the score that surprised me. The score surprised. If it was 21-17 Kansas City, I would have expected that more than, I thought Pittsburgh's defense would have been able to contain them a little bit more. So I don't understand that not chipping the receivers when they come off the line now. I watch football now and they're giving them 10 yards. I don't get it. Not that I'm in the NFL, but I don't get it why you wouldn't, hit them within the first 5. And because a lot of it's just timing patterns, just quick slants. And if you hit them coming off the line, they're not going to have that timing.
If you jam the receivers,
just jam them.
Then TJ Watt's coming on the side. Highsmith is coming on the other end. You can get there, but when he's just like 3 steps and get rid of it, it's like, you're not really helping our defense,
So
The
the
whole
hard part,
NFL is like that. The whole NFL is like they don't jam receivers anymore. They give up, and it's too much. For me, it's too much zone. So they just run down, find a soft opening, turn around, 12 yards. Nobody's hitting anybody coming off the line.
I think there's two things, and I'll say this from a coaching perspective: is if you're going to jam a guy, or you're going to, what we call loading a tight end. When we call loading a tight end, we'd bring down a linebacker, we'd put him across the tight end, and we'd jam his ass up, whether it's to squeeze down the run game or to stop him from getting off the line. If you're going to load a tight end or jam a receiver, you're opening yourself up for other world of hurt, because now you've got to protect your corners with safeties. So you've pulled the safety out of the block and you've got to protect your corners. And then if you're going to jam a tight end, what can happen is if that tight end gets leverage outside of you, now the outside run game's in here. And there's so many outside screens that are run nowadays with the passing game that defensive coordinators are scared to do it. And they'll say, okay, we'll try and rally and we'll try and hide some defenses and we'll bring down a safety or we'll rotate linebackers or whatever to that tight end. The problem is the good tight ends, and there's getting to be more and more of them, but the Kelce's and the Mark Andrews and these guys that are great tight ends, you're right. They're seeing these zones and they're being better about, now I know where to sit down in between the zone. And if you get a good sit down receiver and a good sit down receiving tight end, which Travis Kelce is one of the smartest damn tight ends I've ever seen, he finds that spot. And wherever you play that zone, he's going to find that spot and make you wrong. And Patrick Mahomes has some weird connection with him to where he can find him. So I think it's just, and it's Andy Reid. You go back to Andy Reid too. Like he's looking at it and going, oh, they're playing this. Well, go here. I mean, he's been around the block more than once. So these guys are just, they're good at what they do. It's an offensive game. It's geared toward, Jody and I had a conversation the other day about how it's all the rules are geared toward offense because you can't hit anybody anymore. You can't be physical with anybody anymore. They're going to throw flags on you. So the defense is hampered, and that's just how it's going to be, which is why, rewind this to an hour ago when we started the conversation, you have to have a good throwing and a smart quarterback to win the Super Bowl in this league. Because defense coordinators will fuck with you, but there's holes out there if you can find them. Mm-hmm. So anyway, let's move off of this a little bit, and we'll stop talking about the Steelers. I don't want to see Jody cry on a recording here. They're still in it, Jody. They got 10 wins. They're in the playoffs. Yeah. They'll be fine. So I kind of made a short list here, and you guys can chime in if you think, when we were talking about the famous replacements, especially in NFL, a few of them came to mind for me, and I jotted them down. And this was these are my time. So again, Terry, if you think of something a little bit before my time, or Jody, if you think of something outside the box, Steve Young replacing Joe Montana. I remember when Steve Young was drafted out of BYU, went to Tampa Bay, then came over, was shitty in Tampa Bay, by the way. I think they won.
Wasn't he in the USFL, or wasn't he in another league before that?
Yeah, he was a USFL guy. And he went to Tampa Bay for his first year and got his ass handed to him and was horrible. And everybody was like, oh, overrated. Like he's not going to be the guy. Goes to San Francisco as the backup. Great organ. Talk about a good organization. Jesus, San Francisco. Good organization, great players, learned from Montana. They had Montana, Young, and Bono, probably the three best quarterbacks that have ever been on a team at the same time, because Bono was pretty good. Yeah. And
so how is it ex-49er quarterbacks end up playing for Kansas City? Like Montana, Elvis Gerbach, Steve Bono, like they all end up in Kansas City for some reason.
Wasn't Craig? Not Craig. Who's the guy that always had the finger hurt?
Steve DeBerg. Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah. And Steve DeBerg was a Niners guy, and he was the Niners guy before Montana, right? Wasn't DeBerg the quarterback before Montana? Yep. Yeah, so I think of when Young came in and took over for Montana, and that got kind of heated. Montana was like, fuck you, I'm going to Kansas City, which is fine. He had a good little run in Kansas City for a couple years. and Steve Young became one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. It worked out for everybody, but that was a big replacement. We talk about Bledsoe and Brady. With Bledsoe got injured, right? I mean, that's how the Brady regime started.
But I believe Belichick and Bledsoe were together 3 or 4, I think 4 years before they made that run, and then Bledsoe got hurt, and that's when he went in with Brady. And then when he came back, he stuck with Brady, which was a big deal.
Well, don't forget. So remember, he replaced Bledsoe because he got spiked by Mo Lewis against the Jets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they put in Brady. They go on this awesome run. You're forgetting that in that AFC title game, Brady got hurt. He didn't play, and Bledsoe stepped in because he killed the fucking Steelers. By the way, so he won that game for him.
He got hurt like at the end of the first or mid second quarter, and then was taken out. And Bledsoe came in, and they ended up winning the game.
Yeah.
And then Belichick still went with Brady, which was kind of ballsy.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's a big one, and that's one of the ones that people don't think about that as a replacement because they just think, oh, Brady was there forever. But those who lived through the moment remember that Drew Bledsoe was tearing it up. He was kind of having like Carson Wentz was. Carson Wentz was having an MVP season for the Eagles, right? And then
Bledsoe was a Pro Bowler, yeah.
Huh?
He was a Pro Bowler.
Well, yeah, and I think Carson Wentz, the year that the Eagles won, would have been MVP of the league. He gets hurt. Nick Foles comes in and wins the Super Bowl.
And Nick Foles was pretty. He would bounce around the league. He was good.
Yep.
I mean, I still, the big question is when Foles was throwing, what happened to the kid who made the interception against Seattle in the Super Bowl? He did not play. And they ended up scoring 2 touchdowns on his replacement, which was a rookie. I'm not saying Philly shouldn't have won.
Right.
But that's a big question mark of why he didn't play. And 2, it's never come out. Neither one has said why he was yanked for not playing in that game. And that was the hero of the Super Bowl, I believe, the year before against Seattle. What is his name, Jody?
Malcolm
Butler.
Yeah, Malcolm Butler.
The Butler did it.
Yeah.
And they showed him on the sideline crying. And that was a great game to watch. That was a fun Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was good pull, Jody. Malcolm Butler. All right. That's one that's a deep cut. Another one that I thought of, again, we talk about quarterbacks. Let's shift gears a little bit. Edgerrin James replacing Marshall Faulk. Ooh. And Marshall Faulk was only 26 years old. I had to look this one up. This isn't off the top of my head.
Right.
But Edgerrin James came in. Marshall Faulk was 26 years old, was a Pro Bowler, was playing with Peyton Manning. They're like, what? They had Marvin Harrison. They had a good little team that was getting ready to be a great team. And they saw Edgerrin James and they saw something in him. They shipped Marshall Faulk off, which he did all right. He had 1,000 and 1,000 with the Rams the next year. One of the only players to do that. And Edgerrin James, ran for 1,500 or 1,600 yards for 3 or 4 seasons, and he did pretty well for himself too. But that was a big replacement that a lot of people kind of shook their head at first.
Was it a money issue? Was it a money issue or?
I don't remember if maybe Marshall Faulk was coming off his rookie contract and wanted a big contract. It may have been, but that was a big one. The other one that kind of, and this came to mind as a replacement, but they did play together for a couple years, is when T.O. came into San Francisco and Jerry Rice was there. And Steve Young, again, was the quarterback who I believe at the time when they retired, they were like the number 1 and 2 quarterback to receiver tandem. I think maybe Peyton and Marvin Harrison passed them, but Steve Young had a great rapport with Jerry Rice after Montana left, and they had some big years. And then T.O. came in, and I believe his rookie or his second year, had the most receptions in a game, had like 22 receptions. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, now it's time to hand the mantle. And then Jerry Rice went around and played for everybody after that. Jesus Christ, Jerry Rice had like 10 teams after he left.
I think he played for Central Catholic one year.
Yeah, I was going to say. I don't think Central could afford him.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's true. They do a good job of fundraising. Yeah, that almond roca goes. But that was another one that I thought of as just as replacement guys in that. I mean, you could go in and you could talk Wally Pipp and Lou Gehrig all you want, and you can talk, different sports and people replacing, Steve Nash replacing Jason Kidd, or, vice versa or whatever. But what do you think of, Jody? Yeah, Jody's chomping at the bit here. What are you thinking?
From the 80s. So do they have to win a championship or no?
Oh, no. We're just talking like players replacing big-time players and having success.
I'm going to say Herschel Walker replacing Tony Dorsett.
I thought of that one, and then I was like, because I was a big Herschel Walker fan. Yeah. But he really only had one big year in Dallas, got shipped off to Minnesota, was a bust, went to Philadelphia and was okay, but wasn't great. But that's a good one because that was a huge deal at the time. And it gave Denver more of a running game when Dorsett went to Denver. And it also put Tony Dorsett on Denver in Tecmo Bowl, but that's a whole different episode. No, that's a great one. What was your other one?
Doug Williams replacing Jay Schrader of the Redskins, and he goes on to win the Super Bowl.
That's a big one. Yeah, that's a big one for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, first black quarterback.
What's that?
Who did Williams replace?
Jay Schrader.
Oh, Jay Schrader.
Who went on to have some pretty decent years with LA, with the Raiders. But yeah, that was a big one. And Doug Williams, 4 touchdowns in like a quarter or a half in that game, even though Timmy Smith probably should have got MVP because he did run for 200 yards in a Super Bowl. But
that's true.
Doug Williams, that's a big one. That's a good pull. Any others that you guys can think of, whether it's football or otherwise, where you think, boy, that guy replaced that guy and did pretty well?
I'm on a roll, but go ahead, Terry.
I remember Roger Staubach took over for Craig Morton for Dallas. And Craig Morton, I believe, had won the Super Bowl in 70. No? Did they?
I think Staubach was still in the Navy, wasn't he?
Or was Dallas Staubach? Didn't Dallas beat Miami the first time Miami was in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, 24-3.
And I believe
Staubach was there though, because he's the quarterback at the time.
Staubach took Craig Morton's place, and then Craig Morton went to Denver, and Dallas and Denver played like in 77, Tony Dorsett's rookie season.
Yeah.
But Morton had been at Dallas I think Morton took over for Don Meredith.
Mm-hmm.
So he was on some pretty good, but Miami was dominant, and then along came Pittsburgh. But Morton was a pretty good quarterback, and then Staubach came in as a scrambler, Roger the Dodger.
And so I'm looking at Craig Morton's bio right here. It does say he's a one-time Super Bowl champ. It does say he was 1977 AFC MVP. 1977 Player of the Year. So, which they had different awards back then. They didn't have these ones. But yeah, it looks like 1977 was his year.
Right.
Morton.
Yeah, Craig Morton. No, this is Craig Morton.
And he played for
Dallas. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He played for Denver at that time.
Yeah.
In 77, he played
for Dallas, Denver. So he had Staubach against the guy he took Craig Morton's place.
Mm-hmm.
That was
so Craig Morton went on to do some good things, it looks like.
What's that?
It looks like Craig Morton went on to do some good things, like he was a player.
Yeah, he was good. And then I don't know why they switched, but Staubach, came out of Navy, I believe, and then they kind of gave him the ball. And Morton was no slouch.
I've never heard of Craig Morton until just now when I looked him up, and you said his name.
Really?
Yes, and I thank you.
I believe that was the big storyline.
Yeah, that's a big
Cowboy against his former team.
Was Morton on the team that beat Miami?
I think it was a backup.
I could tell you what years he played for him.
Because Morton quarterback Super Bowl V when they lost to the Colts, if I'm not mistaken.
He played 65 to 73.
Yeah, so he was on the Colts team, and then he was the backup when Staubach got there against the Dolphins.
Did Staubach beat the Dolphins?
Yes, 24-3. Look at the score.
Well, I'm not doubting the score because I know Miami went three times in a row, but they lost the first time. And I know that they lost to Dallas, but I thought so. Staubach was the quarterback.
Yep.
To beat Miami.
He has his 2 Super Bowls, one against Denver and one against Miami. Because I think Morton was a starter in Super Bowl V when they played the Colts.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Or did he get injured and Staubach just came in and just was throwing darts? However,
I was wondering when Morton came into Dallas because Don Meredith was the quarterback for Dallas for years, trying to get by Green Bay. And Don Shula was the coach of Baltimore that lost to the Jets.
Yep.
And then Craig Morton, I thought he had won. I thought he had won one. Maybe not, but he was a big man in Dallas.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal when Staubach took over.
I'll give you one last one, and then we can shift gears.
Yeah. What was you said you had one more?
Jeff Hostetler replaces Phil Simms.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the stash.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Now, was Hostetler a running quarterback or was he a scrambler?
I think he was a scrambler. I don't remember him running.
Oh, he was a good runner.
Oh, yeah.
But but there wasn't like design plays for him, though.
Right. They didn't really have running back quarterbacks at that time. That was the Cunningham was about the unicorn of the era.
When you have Otis Anderson back there, you ain't got to run as a quarterback. You don't.
What's that?
When you have Otis Anderson as your running back, you don't have to run as a quarterback.
Was the Hostetler, was that 90?
Yeah.
Against Buffalo. First time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Simms won in 80.
No, Simms won in 86.
86.
Against the Broncos.
Yes.
Yeah. So they won twice. Who was the defensive coordinator?
Belichick.
Oh, Belichick.
That's right. Belichick, greatest defensive coordinator ever.
Bill Russell fingers. Rings all over him.
Yeah. And I mean, just for those out here, just a little reminder of Jeff Hostetler, who did play for the Giants and then went on to play for the Raiders and was overpaid. And but he was a good little quarterback. But yeah, he could run it a little bit. But yeah, he was probably a pass first scrambler type dude with the sweet mustache.
How about Earl Morrall taking over for Bob Greasy? Didn't Earl Morrall take over for Bob Greasy and they won a Super Bowl in Miami? Who took over?
I thought he replaced it. I thought he was a starter
for Baltimore
for the Colts in Super Bowl III, and then Unitas came in toward the end of that game.
Well, Unitas was the Colts quarterback for years.
Yeah.
But Greasy,
wait. No, same Super Bowl V. You're right. It was Morrall. Yep. That's the one.
Earl Morrall?
Fast check it. That's the one.
We're gonna need some people in the back to keep up on this.
Yeah, really as this show grows, we're just going to need to have some people looking into this. If we're going to be talking Earl Moore, look at that shit. Look at those face masks.
I stand corrected. Let me throw out the guy's name. You can't live without him. The oldest man ever to play, George Blanda.
Oh God, yeah.
Didn't George Blanda go in and do some damage with Miami? Maybe I'm wrong. I'm thinking.
Didn't he play for every team in the league?
Played for the Raiders too.
He played for the AFL Oilers and played for a lot.
He played for the Bears in the 40s, the Monsters in the Midway.
Yeah.
He backed up Sid Luckman.
Take a seat, Sid. I'm going in.
All right, so that was fun. We got off the rails a bit, but that's kind of what we do here. So a couple other replacements, and let's shift outside because this is the aggregate now. So this is the sum of all its parts. It's not just sports. We delve into other parts of pop culture, society, whatever we want. Movie-wise, I thought of Jody and I had this discussion, God, a few weeks back, and then again the other day on the phone when we're talking about our number one replacement in movie history, and that was Willie Mays Hayes in Major League, where they started Major League and Wesley Snipes was Willie Mays Hayes, the speedster that couldn't hit a curveball. And then Major League 2 came around, and I want to say Wesley Snipes was filming like Blade or something like that, so he couldn't do it. And so they signed a young Omar Epps to play Willie Mays Hayes. And that was a big, for my generation, it was like, what the fuck? That was one of the best characters. Like he was great. And Major League was great. You get Tom Berenger, you've got some big names. Rene Russo was in that film. They had
Charlie Sheen. Come on now.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen, Wild Thing, baby. And so Corbin Benson was in it.
Yeah.
And so we were like, you can't replace that guy. And just on a side note too, by the way, Serrano is the guy that does the Allstate commercials now. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Oh.
Yeah, he was in that movie. So that was one. Can you guys think of TV or movie or pop culture music, like bands that replaced people, that they had one legend go to another? I know Van Halen kind of comes to mind for me when David Lee Roth was big and, in the 80s and everyone had a mullet. And then Sammy Hagar came in and David Lee Roth left. So, and Terry, you might be better at this because you're the most music guy here. Can you think of bands or anything like that that had great replacements? I don't know any, and I hate to put you on the spot, but
only because I like the Eagles. I remember when Joe Walsh came in and kind of bumped the other guy out after a while, but it's hard. It's hard. Usually the band, someone gets famous and they'll go out on their own. Like Harry and Journey. It's much more rare when a guy comes into a band that's been on his own for a long time. So,
right, but that's that's the kind of thing that I think of. So you're like Steve Perry, and you just say the guy who replaced Steve Perry. Like, you've got to replace a legend, right? Like Eric Clapton, didn't he jump from a couple? Yeah, from solo to was he Wings? Who was he with?
He's with I believe with Cream. And was it the Birds? The Birds, I believe. So yeah, he played with Jimmy Page and somebody else. So he had some sweet guitar players, and he went out on his own. Or how about Ringo Starr replacing Peter Best at drums for the Beatles?
Well, it's funny.
Go around the world and listen. That should have been my ass in there.
No, but that's Peter Best is a name that I know. But again, I've been around you a lot in music. I think Jody and I relate more to when the Jackson 5 left to become the Jacksons. Mm-hmm. Jermaine stays for a solo career, and they bring in Randy, which was kind of like the joke, like, you're fucking Randy, like you're Randy Jackson, you're the bottom of the barrel.
You know Jermaine.
You're the tag along.
Right. And so it was just like, you might as well be Reedy at that point. Like,
you know what? That was my honorable mention.
Was Jermaine?
What you just said, Jermaine leaving and Randy, that was going to be my honorable mention, but that was the one I was going to pick, though.
What about what's his name? Who replaced Bobby Brown?
Oh, Johnny Gill. That was the one I was going to talk about.
Yeah. And then they split out to Belle Biv DeVoe.
Yep.
Yeah. No, he
was up at the front desk checking IDs about that time, that era, up in Champions.
Yeah. See.
That's funny. Yeah. I mean, you think of some of these. Some of the groups that look at those absolute amazing outfits. Yeah, you think of some of those replacements there. Music wise, again, there's only a couple that you think of that I think of people going in and replacing. And again, that was the Van Halen. It was hard for me to think of any in my era that they do that, because honestly, who really cares? Because in my era, the band lasts X amount of time and then they're gone, and a lot of them are only 1 or 2 singles and they're out anyway. You don't have longevity anymore, so you don't have people that will replace in and out of great bands, you know.
It's because it's the just add water. As soon as you make a good record, all of a sudden someone's in your ear going, hey, look how much money you can make if you're a single. And it's, oh yeah, then there you go, you're breaking a group up, you know.
Well, and I love the fact that people are making movies about that now. I mean, they're made the story about Queen, and you know, about what's his name, the lead singer for Queen. Now I'm blanking here. Help me out.
Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury, and how people were in his ear about going solo, and you can do all this and make money and this and this and that. And in the end, he just wanted to make music with his friends, and you know, and they were great together. But he fell off that track. So, and that's what happened probably with Michael Jackson, who led the group. I mean, there's been how many documentaries or even made for TV movies or whatever about the Jacksons, and, you know, people in Michael's ear, you know, whether it's Berry Gordy or somebody else, like influencing what they do. So replacements all the way around. It doesn't stop in sports. One thing that does go around and around, and this is going to be an interesting one, the character of Batman in TV, movies. We've had old Batman, we've had Adam West, and you've got Keaton came in and revitalized the franchise in '89, I believe. Clooney's done it, Val Kilmer's done it, Ben Affleck's Batman. There's just been so many. Christian Bale is. Yeah. So Terry, who do you got? Who you got as your number one Batman actor?
Adam West.
Adam West.
Adam West and Michael Keaton are my two favorites. But I'm a fan of Michael Keaton anyway, so it's easy for me to like him in Batman.
Yeah, I don't think it's hard to hate on Michael Keaton for anything. Did you guys see the new Flash movie where they brought Michael Keaton back?
No, but I saw the new Beetlejuice when they brought Michael Keaton back.
Oh, yeah, they did. Wait, Michael Keaton's having quite the comeback. But yeah, I don't know.
Did he only do one Batman, right? Michael Keaton?
Yeah, they started. See, here's the thing. They started like it was good. I think Jeremy and I were like in middle school when that came out, and you know, so was Keaton like because remember every Batman had a big rival for a character. So when Keaton was Batman, was it the Joker?
The Joker.
Or was it like
it's the Joker, I believe.
So that was Jack Nicholson, right?
Yeah, so Keaton did 2 Batman because Danny DeVito as the Penguin was in the second one, and Michelle Pfeiffer was Catwoman.
And that was Jim Carrey was the Riddler, wasn't he?
Now you're going towards, I think that's George Clooney.
Okay.
So yeah, they had George Clooney, either George Clooney or who was the other? Val Kilmer.
It had to
Val
be
Kilmer might have
because
been Batman and Robin with Arnold Schwarzenegger as the bad guy, Mr. Freeze.
yeah.
By the way, this video cracks me up. This is some old 1940s Batman.
Why is Robin's face mask like covered his entire face?
Yeah, let's get to, there we go. It's Batman. Yes.
There you go. There's Adam.
All right. Look at my bulge in these shorts. Like, this is some good stuff right here.
You ever notice how you go back to the old like Adam West Batman and the guy before that, how his little ears were like shorter back then, and every year they got longer and longer? You ever notice that?
No.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's been a lot of iterations of the bat suit, and this one was, I think I had pajamas that were exactly like this.
That's definitely 60s right there, Batman.
So I'm getting fan texts. I'm getting fan texts from a Jada Mitchell who says Heath Ledger and Christian Bale are the best by far. So Heath Ledger played the Joker and was a great Joker, and Christian Bale's Batman. I would have to say Christian Bale was my favorite Batman. It was just so intense, and he was athletic, which I like an athletic Batman. He wasn't super athletic up until, Christian Bale, but this is Michael Keaton right here. And look how tall his ears are, Jody. There's a different iteration right there.
Yeah, they get longer.
Jada says he didn't wear hockey pads. Yeah, they didn't put on all the bulk and everything like that. My problem with Michael Keaton was I didn't believe that Mr. Mom could be Batman. That was my only thing, is because I was like, is he really like that tough? Like, I don't know if you guys have seen Affleck lately, but that dude's yoked. Like, he looks like he can be a crime fighter.
That's the thing. When you're a superhero now, you got to be like that. Like,
got to hit the gym.
Yeah.
Here's some Val Kilmer for you, which, boy, Val Kilmer really fell off of the bridge too after this. He let himself go. He's kind of a weird dude now, but this is, I believe, Tommy Lee Jones played Two-Face in this one.
Yeah.
And boy, you got to think of these Batman franchises. They've had a lot of good bad guys be actors.
Yeah, that's what made Batman good. Then it just seemed like, when they got to the Ben Affleck one, it's just kind of like, eh. But by that time, I was all into the Avengers anyway, so.
Well, and then here's Clooney. The Ben Affleck one is definitely, it's darker. It's a little bit more artsier Batman.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's the one now. The one now is a little bit more artsier. Ben Affleck was like the Justice League Batman. This is Clooney, where they brought in Robin.
Is that Chris O'Donnell?
That is Chris O'Donnell. Good call. That's deep cut there, because Chris O'Donnell wasn't around very long.
Right.
He was popular for a minute in like the 90s. But these were really, really bad. This was bad Batman. That was bad Batman when he fought Mr. Freeze. Christian Bale, I think, is kind of the standard as the scary Batman.
Right.
But Christian Bale's kind of a fucking whack job anyway. Like, he yells at people on the set, and he's definitely kind of wacky. So, well, we got one vote for Keaton, we got one vote for Adam West, and we got one for Christian Bale. That's an episode by itself, his favorite Batman.
When's the last Batman? What's the most recent Batman made?
Wasn't that Batman versus Superman or something like that?
No, it was called The Batman. And it was just made and recently released. It's a very dark new DC universe that they have, where it's I don't know how to explain it. You'd have to watch it. It's Robert Pattinson as Batman, who was the lead vampire on the Twilight series. So it's kind of weird because, Twilight with the vampires and the werewolves and all that.
Yeah.
He's the lead now, and he faces the Riddler, but nobody really has like superpowers. They're just all kind of like bad guys. But there's a lot of, there's death involved, and it's like R-rated stuff. So Batman has gotten, and DC is getting really dark with their universe. Right. So it's not like the George Clooney flying around or Adam West doing the 60s hippie dancing and, the stuff like that. It's gotten different. The other one that I thought of while I was
Joker, when I saw the Joker, I didn't know it was going to be like that at all. That was messed up. I don't know, what, 5 years ago was it?
The Christian Bale one?
No, the Joker with Joaquin Rivers.
The one with
yeah.
He was the Joker, and maybe it was the backstory of how he became the Joker.
Right. Yeah, that was
the one with Harley Quinn.
So they made the Joker, and they just came out recently with the second Joker, which with Harley Quinn, which Lady Gaga is playing Harley Quinn.
Okay.
But I guess it's a musical. I guess it's shitty. I haven't seen it.
The first Joker I saw was friggin' pretty dark, about suicide and everything else. It was pretty dark.
I was like Wayne Gacy dark. Like what?
The first Joker was like a case of mental health. It was insanely dark. Yeah. But again, it's how do you like Christian Bale's Joker, like Jada was saying, Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger was a great Joker, but he'd kill your ass. Like he was dark a little bit, but and then there was, Cesar Romero back in the day who was the Joker. Jack Nicholson played kind of a half and half. Like he was goofy, but he'd also kill you.
Is that the Prince?
He was more
right. Wasn't
the what?
Prince soundtrack was with the Batman with Nicholson.
Yeah.
The Bat Dance, baby.
Yeah.
So, there's been a lot of different bad guys, and I think Jody makes a good point that the bad guys really make those movies. Uma Thurman was a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
In one of the
to sell.
One of them.
If you want to have, I'm gonna say this. I get off right now, but I'll say this one point: to make a good versus evil, if the evil guy's not a kick-ass character, that movie's gonna flop. And I say that because what carried the Avengers was I like the Avengers, right? I wasn't thrilled with the Age of Ultron. I thought that was kind of weak. But as soon as Thanos came on the scene, that's what made that movie.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. You got to have a good bad guy or that movie doesn't go. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right, Jody, you need to hop off?
I do. I got to go pick up a mini refrigerator. So
go pick up your mini fridge. We'll catch up with you next time. And I'm going to continue with Terry here for a little bit more.
And I'll see you in person next week, though.
Jody is heading up here for New Year's next week. We're going to have a New Year's bash at my house. And so
I think I saw that on CNN on the little ticker below.
Yes, it is global news now. So
the NFL ticker.
Breaking news.
I may just get the phone out and do an aggregate live for New Year's Eve. Maybe we'll do a New Year's countdown.
Do a red
so
card.
Yeah. Well,
I wore my Scott Hall shirt.
Yes, do it. I want to see it.
Yes.
We'll continue on and we'll finish out for you here.
All right, Terry, my friend, it was good to see you again.
All right, I'm sure I'll see you next week.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Okay, so Terry, we'll finish out here real quick. I do want to ask, though, because Jada's texting me, so obviously she's there and can hear. Can she just jump in on your screen with you?
She's upstairs, I believe. Jada, are you around? Oh, here she comes.
I want Jada in on this last part.
Okay. I was going to text you. Put me in, Coach. What's up?
Yes. Hey, Jada, you are welcome anytime. And if you want to be on this show too, we just send you your own invite. You can get your own because, again, this is a sports episode that's morphed into other things, but the aggregate's going to be about all sorts of stuff. So If there's stuff that I think you'd be great on, you're in, man. You're on the list. So this last one is going to be a fun one. We're getting away from all this stuff. We're going to talk a little bit of Christmas here, since this is considered our Christmas episode because it's the first one after Christmas. I've got a little hot button take here. We're going to go. Terry's going to answer first. Jada, you're going to answer second, okay?
All
right. And this is just Christmas stuff. So we're going to start with movies. All right. Christmas Story or Christmas Vacation?
For me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Story.
Christmas Story. Okay. Old school, Jada.
Agreed. Story.
Christmas Story. All right. Awesome. Die Hard or Gremlins?
Wizard of Oz.
That's Thanksgiving.
Gremlins or Die Hard?
Yeah, 2 Christmas movies. Which one? Die Hard or
Die
Gremlins?
Hard a Christmas movie? I'll go Die Hard, I guess.
All right. Jada, have you seen both of these?
I have seen bits and pieces of Die Hard, but I really didn't like it. I've tried. It's just not for me. I can't do it. I like Gremlins though. That's
a bold statement to come on here and say you don't like Die Hard, but I respect your gumption. All right. Let's flip it a little bit. Let's flip it out of this. In your stocking, do you want candy canes or Hershey's Kisses?
Hershey's Kisses.
I second that. Yeah.
Hershey's Kisses. Fantastic.
Yeah,
all right. Would you rather receive from your auntie who's way older than you the popcorn tin or the fruitcake?
Oh, the popcorn tin.
Yeah.
That's really not a fair question for you, Terry, because you buy the popcorn tin all year round.
I gotta go to Fred Meyer's to get them off 60% off popcorn tins.
So, Jada, let me tell you a little bit of story, and this is why this is a very special aggregate with Terry. So, there would be times when I would go to Terry's house when I was a kid, and there would be a bag of popcorn that I shit you not that was about as big as I was. And Terry loved his popcorn, and I believe it was the cheese corn that really got your goat.
Yeah.
And I know that probably hasn't changed. We got a couple popcorn tins here, and the first thing I did was go to white cheddar, and it took me back a long way to the old days at Uncle Terry's house. That and a lot of stuff in therapy that's taken me back. Okay. That. Do we like all white lights or colored lights on your tree?
Oh, I like colored lights.
This is serious shit. Colored?
Yeah.
It depends.
No, it doesn't.
I'm gonna lean colored.
Yeah.
Yeah, but classy Christmas is all white. But for the shits and giggles, we're doing the colors. To go with the ugly ornaments I've made as a kid, you have to do the colored ones because it's not classy enough for all white.
Yeah.
So that's what my tree,
classy.
That's what my tree looks like. It's like half ornaments that the kids made. And they're just like from second grade. And it's like a handprint, like, hi, Mom. Like, that's fantastic. Now, are they static or are they blinking?
They're blinking this year because we got a smaller tree. But sometimes I don't know they're blinking until I put them all around and then plug it in, and then they're all still, and all of a sudden, a minute into it, half the tree's blinking. Yeah. Usually right in the middle, so it looks really stupid. Solid, blinking, solid.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Tinsel. Do we put tinsel on a tree? Is that acceptable?
She says so. I used to think so. And then I got classy. So no.
It's coming back. It's making a comeback.
Tinsel's making a comeback?
It is. It's very popular. It was popular last Christmas and this Christmas. Same for like the red bows. Those are coming back. Everyone's craving the nostalgic Christmas, all-American Christmas. And you have to with tinsel. So yeah.
I think I coined the phrase Tinsel Town.
Well, when I was a kid, you used to take a handful of tinsel, just throw it at the tree, and let it drop down.
And half ended up on you, half on the tree.
Yeah. This is why all 15 people subscribe to the aggregate, is because we attack the serious stuff like tinsel.
Yes.
So, is it acceptable to open any presents on Christmas Eve, or do you have to wait all until Christmas Day?
One on Christmas Eve. If you
That's been a
decide,
tradition in our house.
Mhm.
if you want. If not, that's no pressure.
Do you get to pick which one?
Sure.
Okay. Jada, we on board?
Yeah, we've had to change that rule. It was I got to pick whichever one, and then I opened up my iPod Touch one year, and he was like, "Well, shit, put it back in the wrapping, and then your mom will think it's brand new tomorrow." I was like, "Okay." So after that, I had to be handed it because then it just ruined Christmas. Because then after that, I was like, "I got socks," you know.
Yeah. And then you're just like bummed, and you're like, I'm just gonna kill myself on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, exactly.
We do at our house, we do pajamas. We open up and the kids get pajamas, and that's just what they get. They don't get anything real. And then they have their pajamas for the next morning. They open up their gifts. So everybody does a little bit different.
Well, that's what we did when I was little too. And each year, one year I got Dan's pajamas, and next year I got Tim's pajamas, and shit started disappearing around the house. Like one year I got a stapler that nobody could find for 2 weeks, and I opened it up on Christmas Eve.
You had a spatula for half a day until Gene had to make something on the stove.
Can I see your present? I gotta flip some eggs.
So you've both been in relationships. Is cash an acceptable gift from your partner?
No.
Boy, yeah. Jen, it's not your turn, damn it.
Are gift cards considered cash?
I'm not saying gift cards, because I think a gift card at least means that, say they give you a gift card to a spa or something, they're trying to give you that experience, right? Yeah. And that's kind of, at least they put a little bit of thought into it. If it's a Best Buy gift card, yeah, you might be in that realm. But cash, if your spouse is just like, hey, here's some gifts and here's $500 cash, is that acceptable, or do you just look at them like, way to go with no thought?
Well, first of all, that's never happened to me. I would never pass up cash, but yes, I don't think that's very classy, if you will. Here's some cash. Go buy yourself something pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jada obviously shaking her head like cash is not the thing, huh?
No. I would gladly spend it, but I'm not going to be happy about it.
Sure.
Hate it all the way to the bank.
Yeah, I'm going to hate that trip to the mall.
Yeah.
All right. And then the last one. This is how we're going to end this very special episode of The Aggregate. You've got one Christmas song to choose, and it's either the Standby, Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas. I'll even give you the second version with Justin Bieber. You can choose either of those, okay? Or Wham! Last Christmas. What do you choose?
Do I get a third?
No.
I like Wham.
You're going with Wham? You're going with...
Wham or George Michael by himself?
No, you get Adam Ridgely with him, or whatever his name was.
Andrew,
whatever.
I don't
Ridgely?
know. Ridgely, yeah.
Yeah. That's Wham.
I'll go Wham.
Okay.
I go Wham. I love Justin Bieber, but Mariah Carey bothers the shit out of me. So
I thought I might get you with the Justin Bieber. I thought I might sway you a little bit.
Yeah, if you done Mistletoe or Drummer Boy Justin Bieber, I'd be all on board. But
if I play Mistletoe in my house, it's like Pied Piper for Sadie. Like around Christmas time, she will come singing Mistletoe and just love it. So, all right. Well, we are done here. Terry, it's been a successful first voyage, and I hope this isn't the last one. We'll get you on here another time, and we love having your opinions and your seasoned veteran quality. Yeah, I don't know about the background. I mean, you put effort into it, so I mean, I can't really.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry she's blocking my trophies.
Yeah, the trophies are.
I couldn't bring my trophy case down, so I just bought a couple.
Oh, so let's, before we leave, tell us what those trophies are. Share those with us.
Okay.
I'll do this one.
This is the Mitchell Cup from your college days. But have you ever won a Mitchell Cup?
I have never won a Mitchell Cup. I have placed second like once, maybe twice, but never won one.
I believe your daughters won too.
Yeah, Sadie has.
I believe both of my daughters have won twice, or Bailey's won twice and Sadie's won once, or second once.
Well, I actually didn't win this. I went down after the tournament, just got a trophy and had to make up year that I won.
Oh,
Actually,
good.
this is the year that I won, and then our brother Dan won the next year. 2-time defending champ for Dan, back to back because we had COVID, so we didn't do it.
Ah,
And the next one is the Oscar Award for a golf tournament for Jada's uncle Oscar. A bunch of her cousins and I got together and made up the Oscar tournament, and I happened to win. So I get to keep it for now. We'll see.
fantastic. A trophy's a trophy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks you guys for being on. And stick around after the sexy outro goes out. You guys will still be on camera for a minute, and we'll chat. Okay.
Okay.
So for Chocolate Thunder, who left earlier, and Terry and Jada, of course, we'll have you on again. I am Jeremy McDonald for the Aggregate. We're out. Thanks for joining. And of course, we will hit end recording now.